Aging is one of those realities that all of us face, but the speed at which we age and even the quality of that process isn't fixed. It's not just about the passage of time, it's about how our bodies, brains, and choices interact with that time. Science has made it very clear that aging can be slowed down and in certain respects even reversed. So let's talk about 5 powerful strategies that can tilt the odds in your favor. Sleep is often thought of as something simple, just closing your eyes and letting the hours pass. But in reality, it is one of the most complex and powerful biological processes that the human body engages in. When we talk about slowing aging and even reversing some of its effects, sleep stands at the very foundation. It is not simply a passive state of rest, but an active period where the body and mind engage in deep repair, regulation, and rejuvenation. The absence of proper sleep doesn't just make you feel groggy or irritable, it creates a chain reaction across nearly every system in the body, accelerating processes that are associated with aging, such as inflammation, hormonal imbalance, impaired memory, and reduced cellular repair. During sleep, particularly in the deeper stages like slow-wave sleep, the brain undergoes a cleansing process that clears out metabolic waste products and toxins that build up during waking hours. One of the most damaging byproducts that gets cleared is beta amyloid, a protein strongly linked to neurodegenerative diseases. Without sufficient deep sleep, these toxins accumulate, leading to cognitive decline and faster brain aging. On the other hand, when sleep is optimized, the brain stays sharp, memory consolidation is strong, and neuroplasticity, the ability to learn and adapt, remains high even into older age. That means sleep is not just about recovering from fatigue, it is about protecting the very architecture of the brain against the erosion of time. Sleep also has a direct influence on hormones that dictate how young or old you feel and function. Growth hormone, which is critical for muscle repair, tissue regeneration, and fat metabolism, is primarily released during deep sleep. When sleep is cut short or fragmented, the release of growth hormone declines, making it harder to maintain lean muscle mass, heal injuries, or keep body composition in check. At the same time, poor sleep increases cortisol, the stress hormone. Chronically, cortisol damages skin, breaks down collagen, weakens immunity, and accelerates aging from the inside out. By prioritizing consistent, high-quality sleep, you naturally rebalance this hormonal orchestra in favor of repair, regeneration, and resilience. Another powerful way sleep defends against aging is through its impact on the immune system. Studies show that just one night of poor sleep lowers natural killer cell activity by nearly 70%. These immune cells are responsible for targeting viruses, bacteria, and even precancerous cells. Over time, compromised immunity means your body becomes more vulnerable to infections, chronic inflammation, and age-related diseases. Conversely, consistent deep sleep strengthens immune defenses, making the body more efficient at fighting off illness and repairing itself, which directly slows down the wear and tear associated with aging. There is also the impact of sleep on metabolism and energy regulation. Insufficient or irregular sleep disrupts insulin sensitivity, leading to higher blood sugar levels, increased fat storage, and a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. These metabolic shifts not only influence weight, but also speed up the aging of blood vessels, heart, and skin. Restorative sleep improves glucose metabolism, keeps insulin sensitivity intact, and helps regulate appetite hormones such as leptin and ghrelin, which control hunger and satiety. By doing so, sleep acts as a natural stabilizer that keeps both energy and cellular health in balance, reducing the risk of chronic disease and physical decline. The aging process also affects appearance, and here too, sleep plays a central role. Chronic sleep deprivation weakens skin barrier function, slows collagen repair, and increases oxidative stress, all of which show up as wrinkles, sagging, and dullness. Deep, consistent sleep enhances circulation, increases skin hydration, and promotes the rebuilding of collagen, giving the face a more youthful glow. What many see as cosmetic benefits are really reflections of profound cellular repair happening beneath the surface, proof that beauty and vitality are closely tied to the quality of rest. Finally, it is not just the quantity of sleep, but also its quality and timing that matter. Going to bed and waking up at consistent times keeps circadian rhythms aligned, allowing hormones, digestion, and repair systems to operate on schedule. Exposure to morning sunlight anchors the biological clock while reducing artificial light at night, especially blue light from screens, protects melatonin release. This synchronization ensures that each stage of sleep, light, deep, and REM occurs in its proper sequence, maximizing the restorative power of the night. Even a perfectly healthy diet and exercise plan cannot compensate for a broken sleep rhythm, because sleep is the master regulator that underpins all other systems. When seen in this light, sleep is not optional, not something to sacrifice for productivity or leisure. It is a non-negotiable pillar of health and longevity. By protecting and prioritizing it, you allow your body and mind to function as they were designed to, slowing the decline that most people accept as inevitable. Sleep is the body's natural anti-aging elixir, available to everyone, every night, free of charge, waiting only for the decision to honor it fully. Nutrition is often discussed in terms of calories, vitamins, and macronutrients, but one of the most overlooked and powerful factors in slowing aging is not just what we eat, but when we eat. The timing of food intake shapes hormonal rhythms, metabolic pathways, and cellular repair processes. By compressing eating into a specific window, such as 8 to 10 hours during the day, the body is given long stretches of time to focus on repair instead of continuous digestion. This practice, often called time-restricted eating, leverages biology's natural cycles and turns them into an advantage against aging. When food is consumed constantly throughout the day or late into the night, insulin levels stay elevated for extended periods. Insulin is necessary to process glucose, but when it remains high, it drives fat storage, suppresses fat burning, and accelerates insulin resistance. Over time, this leads to metabolic disorders, weight gain, and inflammation, all hallmarks of accelerated aging. In contrast, restricting eating hours lowers average insulin exposure, stabilizes blood sugar, and improves metabolic flexibility. This means the body becomes more efficient at switching between burning glucose and burning fat, which keeps energy levels stable and reduces cellular stress. Another powerful process that gets activated during extended fasting periods is autophagy. This is the body's internal recycling program, a system where damaged proteins, misfolded cellular components, and dysfunctional mitochondria are broken down and cleared away. Autophagy acts like a cleanup crew, preventing the buildup of cellular debris that contributes to aging, inflammation, and neurodegeneration. When meals are spread across the entire day without rest, autophagy is suppressed. But when the eating window is narrowed, the body has hours to engage fully in this restorative process, leading to healthier, more efficient cells. Nutrient timing also affects mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell. Mitochondria are critical for energy production, but they are highly sensitive to stress. Overfeeding, especially late at night, places extra demand on these structures, leading to oxidative damage and impaired function. Time-restricted eating allows mitochondria to rest and repair, making them more resilient and efficient. Healthy mitochondria not only provide more energy, but also reduce the production of free radicals, which are key drivers of aging at the cellular level. In this way, meal timing is directly linked to the preservation of youthful energy and cellular vitality. Beyond cellular repair, restricting the eating window has profound effects on inflammation, one of the central mechanisms of aging. Chronic low-grade inflammation, often called inflammaging, underlies most age-related conditions, from arthritis and heart disease to cognitive decline. By aligning food intake with the body's circadian rhythm, inflammatory markers decrease, oxidative stress is reduced, and immune function is optimized. This makes the body more capable of repairing daily wear and tear while protecting tissues from the destructive cycles that accelerate decline. It is important to understand that this approach is not about starvation or deprivation within the eating window. Nutrient-dense foods provide the building blocks for growth and repair. Protein supports muscle maintenance, healthy fats protect brain and cellular membranes, and complex carbohydrates supply steady energy. The key is that the body gets both nourishment and periods of rest, a rhythm that mirrors the natural cycles humans evolved with. Our ancestors did not eat around the clock. They went through periods of abundance and fasting, which kept their physiology sharp and adaptive. Recreating this balance in modern life gives the body signals of strength rather than weakness. The practice also supports better hormonal health. Restricting eating to daylight hours aligns with natural cortisol and melatonin rhythms, improving sleep quality and reducing late-night spikes in blood sugar. This synchronization enhances circadian alignment, which is crucial for longevity. Hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which regulate hunger and satiety, also become more balanced, preventing overeating and reducing the likelihood of obesity. This is why time-restricted eating is not just about slowing aging internally, but also about creating sustainable energy, healthier body composition, and sharper mental clarity. The effects extend to the brain as well. Longer fasting windows increase levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the growth and survival of neurons. This makes the brain more adaptable, protects against neurodegeneration, and enhances learning and memory. At the same time, reduced insulin and inflammation create an environment where the brain can function with greater efficiency and resilience. The mind, like the body, thrives when it experiences cycles of nourishment and rest, and structured eating provides exactly that. What emerges from this practice is not simply weight control or metabolic health, but a deeper alignment with the rhythms of nature and biology. The body is not designed for constant stimulation or constant fuel. It is designed for cycles of action and recovery. By respecting this balance, we not only slow the processes that drive aging, but also unlock reserves of energy, clarity, and vitality that many people lose far too early. In this sense, adjusting the timing of meals becomes one of the simplest yet most profound interventions for longevity and well-being. Stress is usually spoken about as an enemy of health, and in many cases it is. Chronic, unrelenting stress wears down the body, raises inflammation, disrupts hormones, and accelerates the aging process. But there is another side to stress that is less commonly understood: deliberate, controlled stressors that the body perceives as challenges rather than threats. These small doses of discomfort actually make the body and mind stronger, more resilient, and more youthful. When harnessed correctly, deliberate stress can slow aging, improve performance, and even trigger cellular repair mechanisms that keep tissues functioning like those of a younger person. One of the most powerful forms of deliberate stress is physical exercise, particularly resistance training and high-intensity interval work. Lifting weights forces muscle fibers to break down and then rebuild stronger than before. This process stimulates not only muscle growth, but also bone density, tendon strength, and metabolic health. With age, muscle mass naturally declines, a process known as sarcopenia, but strength training interrupts this decline and can even reverse it. Strong muscles are a buffer against falls, frailty, and metabolic disease, making them one of the clearest signs of biological youth. Exercise also improves mitochondrial function, giving cells more efficient energy production and reducing the free radical damage that drives aging at the cellular level. Cardiovascular training, such as sprinting or interval cycling, adds another layer of beneficial stress. These activities push the heart and lungs to their limits, creating adaptations that improve oxygen delivery, circulation, and cardiovascular resilience. Over time, the body becomes more efficient, resting heart rate decreases, and blood vessels stay flexible rather than stiffening with age. This combination of resistance and cardiovascular stress builds a foundation of physical resilience that cannot be achieved through comfort or inactivity. The very stress that challenges the body in the short term creates long-term protection against decline. Cold exposure is another deliberate stressor with profound anti-aging effects. Brief exposure to cold, whether through cold showers, ice baths, or outdoor activities, activates protective proteins called cold shock proteins. These proteins repair damaged cells, preserve muscle mass, and enhance fat metabolism by stimulating brown fat, which burns energy to generate heat. Cold exposure also reduces inflammation and improves immune function, acting as a reset for the nervous system. The body interprets cold as a challenge and responds by strengthening itself, much like it does with exercise. Over time, this builds resilience to other forms of stress and supports longevity. Heat exposure through practices like sauna use offers similar benefits. The rise in body temperature activates heat shock proteins, which play a critical role in repairing misfolded proteins and preventing cellular damage. These proteins essentially act as a defense mechanism against the accumulation of cellular errors that drive aging. Sauna use has also been linked to improved cardiovascular health, reduced risk of neurodegenerative disease, and enhanced detoxification through sweating. Like cold exposure, it places temporary stress on the body that ultimately results in a stronger, healthier system. The nervous system also adapts to deliberate stress in ways that slow aging. Controlled stressors train the body to move out of fight or flight mode and return to balance more efficiently. This adaptability is a sign of nervous system health, known as heart rate variability, which correlates strongly with longevity. People who practice deliberate stress consistently develop an ability to stay calm under pressure, recover quickly, and maintain emotional balance. This resilience not only protects physical health but also preserves mental sharpness and psychological well-being over time. An important point is that deliberate stress is always about balance. Too little stress leaves the body unchallenged, weak, and unprepared for adversity. Too much stress, particularly chronic and uncontrolled, breaks the system down. The key is dosing discomfort in ways that stimulate adaptation without overwhelming recovery. A few sessions of strength training each week, regular bursts of intense exercise, occasional cold or heat exposure, these are all manageable practices that create the right amount of biological challenge. The body interprets them as signals to stay strong rather than cues to deteriorate. What emerges from these practices is a profound truth. Youthfulness is not maintained by seeking constant comfort, but by embracing calculated discomfort. The very processes that feel challenging in the moment, lifting heavy weights, enduring the cold, sweating in the heat, are the signals that tell the body it needs to stay robust. Instead of drifting into the slow decline that comes with inactivity and comfort, deliberate stress creates a cycle of breakdown and repair that keeps systems sharp and adaptable. It is through this stress-driven adaptation that aging slows, vitality endures, and the body remains capable of meeting the demands of life well into later years. The aging process is not only about what happens to muscles, bones, or skin, it is deeply tied to the brain. Protecting the mind is perhaps the most vital part of slowing aging because a sharp, resilient brain defines the quality of life in later years. Physical health without cognitive strength and emotional stability leaves a person vulnerable, not just to disease, but to a diminished sense of purpose. Guarding the mind means taking deliberate steps to keep the brain challenged, nourished, and balanced, ensuring that it continues to adapt and thrive despite the passage of time. The brain is highly plastic, meaning it can form new connections and pathways throughout life. This neuroplasticity is strongest when the brain is consistently exposed to novelty and challenge. Learning a new skill, picking up a language, practicing an instrument, or engaging in intellectually demanding tasks keeps neural circuits active. These experiences strengthen synapses, increase gray matter, and protect against decline in memory and reasoning. In contrast, passive activities such as endless scrolling or repetitive tasks that require little thought allow the brain to stagnate. Without challenge, neural pathways weaken and aging accelerates. Keeping the mind stimulated is like exercising a muscle, and consistent effort is the only way to maintain cognitive strength. Equally important is managing the kind of stress that damages the brain. Chronic, uncontrolled stress floods the body with cortisol, which shrinks the hippocampus, the region critical for memory and learning. It also disrupts sleep and increases inflammation, both of which erode cognitive health. Practices that calm the nervous system, such as mindfulness, meditation, breathing techniques, or even spending time in nature, counteract this damage. They help restore balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, allowing the brain to function without being constantly hijacked by stress. Over time, these habits preserve memory, sharpen attention, and reduce the risk of cognitive decline. Social connection is another powerful form of protection for the mind. Human beings are wired for interaction, and isolation accelerates aging in the brain. Meaningful conversations, shared activities, and community engagement stimulate emotional, intellectual circuits that keep the mind resilient. Social bonds also lower stress, enhance a sense of belonging, and provide motivation to stay mentally active. Studies show that people with strong social ties live longer and maintain cognitive function better than those who isolate themselves. Protecting the mind, therefore, is not a solitary pursuit, but one that is supported by genuine human connection. Purpose plays a central role in mental resilience as well. The brain thrives when it has direction and meaning. Individuals who continue to pursue goals, engage in creative projects, or contribute to others maintain higher levels of motivation, cognitive performance, and overall health. Purpose activates the prefrontal cortex, the seat of decision-making and forward planning, and protects against the apathy that accelerates decline. Without a sense of purpose, the mind drifts, loses focus, and becomes vulnerable to degeneration. Guarding the mind means constantly asking not only how to keep it active, but also why that activity matters. Nutrition and lifestyle also directly influence brain aging. Diets rich in antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, and polyphenols protect neurons from oxidative stress and inflammation. Regular physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients that support neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons. Sleep, as discussed earlier, clears toxins from the brain and consolidates memory. These lifestyle choices create an environment in which the brain can not only resist aging, but also continue growing and adapting. Guarding the mind also involves selective input. The information you consume shapes thought patterns and emotional states. Constant exposure to negativity, fear-based news, or low-value entertainment can wire the brain towards stress and distraction. In contrast, reading thought-provoking material, engaging with challenging ideas, and surrounding yourself with uplifting influences builds mental resilience. Just as food nourishes or damages the body, information nourishes or damages the mind. Choosing high-quality input is a subtle but powerful way to keep the brain young. Ultimately, protecting the mind is about integration. It is not a single practice, but a collection of habits that reinforce one another. Learning keeps the brain flexible, stress management keeps it calm, social ties keep it engaged, purpose keeps it driven, and lifestyle keeps it physically supported. Together, these form a shield against cognitive decline and emotional stagnation. A long life without a sharp, adaptable, and meaningful mind is hollow. But when the mind is guarded and nurtured, aging becomes not just slower, but richer, with every year offering the possibility of continued growth and fulfillment. Light is one of the most powerful forces shaping human biology, and yet it is often taken for granted. From the moment light enters the eyes, it sends signals deep into the brain that regulate hormones, mood, metabolism, and even the speed of aging. The body is not just a machine that runs on food and movement, it is also a system governed by rhythms, and those rhythms are set largely by light. Mastering light exposure is therefore one of the most overlooked but transformative strategies for maintaining youthfulness, energy, and cognitive sharpness. At the core of this process is the circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock that dictates when you feel alert, when you feel tired, and how efficiently your cells perform essential functions. When circadian rhythms are aligned, the body knows when to release cortisol to wake you up, when to release melatonin to prepare you for sleep, and when to activate processes like digestion and cellular repair. Light exposure is the strongest signal to this clock, and the type and timing of light determine whether it is running in sync with the natural day-night cycle or drifting into disruption. A disrupted circadian rhythm accelerates aging, while a stable one slows it down. Morning light exposure is particularly critical. When sunlight enters the eyes within the first hour after waking, it sends signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, the master clock. This triggers a cascade of effects. Cortisol rises in a healthy morning surge, alertness increases, dopamine is boosted to improve motivation and mood, and melatonin production is shut off until night. This simple act of getting natural light in the morning anchors your biological clock, aligning hormones and energy with the day ahead. People who consistently expose themselves to morning light not only sleep better at night, but also experience improved metabolic health, sharper cognitive performance, and greater emotional stability. These are hallmarks of slower age. Evening light, on the other hand, can be disruptive when not managed carefully. Artificial light from screens, lamps, and especially blue light confuses the circadian system, tricking the brain into thinking it is still daytime. Thus delays melatonin release, pushes sleep later, reduces deep restorative sleep, and sets off a cycle of fatigue and hormonal imbalance. Over time, this disruption contributes to inflammation, weight gain, insulin resistance, and accelerated cellular aging. By dimming lights in the evening, using warmer tones, and limiting screen exposure before bed, you protect melatonin cycles and preserve the quality of sleep that is essential for cellular repair and longevity. The effects of light extend beyond sleep and hormones. Light also influences mitochondrial function. Research shows that specific wavelengths, particularly red and near-infrared light, penetrate the skin and directly stimulate mitochondria to produce more energy. This process, known as photobiomodulation, reduces oxidative stress and supports tissue repair. Exposure to natural sunlight provides a balance of these wavelengths, energizing the body in a way that artificial lighting cannot replicate. This connection between light and mitochondria illustrates how deeply intertwined environmental signals are with cellular aging. Light exposure also regulates mood and mental health, both of which are central to the experience of aging. Seasonal affective disorder, a condition where mood declines during darker months, is a stark reminder of how dependent the brain is on natural light. Regular exposure to sunlight increases serotonin, the neurotransmitter linked to happiness and calm, while also boosting dopamine for motivation. A well-lit life synchronized with the sun is therefore protective, not just